today we're going to have a quick look at some 3D printed upgrade parts for Magic Factory F4U Corsairs, and hopefully shed a little bit of light on some of the aftermarket products that are available and how they're coming about. When I first started getting into models, you basically got a model kit, and that was about the extent of what you could get. You know, you built it, painted it, then if you had the ability or the time or the patience or the reference material, you would then start to look at detailing it, and that would involve things like using pretty much whatever you found laying around that was suitable for the task, and then away you went. Then all of a sudden we saw companies like Verlinden and then Eduard come along with things like resin figures, resin replacement parts, Photo-etch. What we're seeing now is a major resurgence in accessories or aftermarket details, and whereas traditionally we had things coming to us from resin casting, we're now seeing an influx of 3D printed items. Is it a good thing? I think so, I believe so. Does it spell the death of models? Hell no, far from it. If anything, it allows people to do even more individual modelling to what it is they're trying to build. And as far as I'm concerned, this hobby is all about what the individual, the modeller, what he or she wants to make. And as I've said before, if you want to build a Spitfire and fully trick it up and paint it pink, that's your call. If you're happy with it, that's the main thing. What I've got here from Magic Factory, a fairly new company. They started off with an Iron Dome missile defense system, which came out in just before Christmas 2022. That was really left of field and very well received. A lot of their figures, a lot of their upgrades are obviously 3D printed. And we've got a couple here that are for the twin pack of Corsairs that they recently released. So firstly, we have a ground crew, and there's 5 figures in there in 1/48. Then what we have is an upgraded engine to be fitted to the actual model. And then we have a display engine. So this would sit adjacent to the model, painted so you could see the level of detail. One thing I will say about the guys at Magic Factory, when they're doing these 3D printed sets, the quality of the packaging that they're supplying them in is just absolutely first rate. So nice hard plastic case, clip lock bag, open that up, and then here are the figures in 3D printing. Now, just gradually turn those over. But look, the detail on this is just amazing. You know, we used to get all excited about resin, but the level of detail and finesse that can be achieved with 3D printing is just beyond belief. It's, you know, a terrible time to be a modeler, isn't it? The mere fact that, you know, they can get the facial expressions on the figures, that they can actually have the tools in their hands while they're working in situ on the model is just really amazing. Is it perfect? No. Will it ever be perfect? Probably not, as long as there's humans involved in it. It's probably going to be the odd thing. I mean, you could sit there and have a look at it and say, well, if I had done this, I might have made the hats, the service caps a little bit different, or I might have a cigarette in his mouth, something like that. And that's fine, and that's all part and parcel of the hobby. That's what makes it so enjoyable, that it's an individual pastime. So here's the next one that we'll quickly have a look at. Now, this is the display engine. If you worked with resin, you would remember that it was fairly nasty stuff in regards to sanding. You know, it was always recommended that you should wear a respirator, or that you should wet sand, so have the part in a little bit of water and running it on the sandpaper to control all the dust, because the dust generated from resin can be pretty nasty. With the 3D printing, we don't have that. But again, and I can't do this justice by holding this, so we'll have to get some images up nice and close. But what they've been able to achieve here, like on this big Wright Cyclone radial engine, you know, we used to strive to get detail using Photo-etch and the wiring harness and the engine leads to the cylinder heads and all that type of stuff. This is now being achieved in 3D printing, and it's just absolutely amazing. So there are just a couple of 3D upgrade sets that we have available for Magic Factory. I guess the other big producer hobbyists would be familiar with is Eduard. Now, Eduard used to do a lot of work with resin, and they're slowly but surely wrapping all that up, and they're moving to 3D prints. Now, once upon a time, Eduard would do a production run, and they might generate, for argument's sake, something like this. They might do 400 or 500, and then have those available for people to order, whether it be through retailers, wholesalers, online, whatever. Eduard are now moving to 3D printing, and what they're actually asking us as a wholesaler is to get the orders in before they do the production run. So they're being very, very smart with how much they produce and when they produce it. Because this is becoming so prevalent in the industry, the 3D printing, and there's lots and lots of people out there doing it, it makes sense that you need to be more mindful with the amount that you produce. So while it's out there and it's great and it's fabulous, probably the one thing I would suggest to you from what my observations are is that if you see a 3D printed part from a mainstream aftermarket company or a mainstream modelling company, that you probably grab it while you can. There'll be limited production runs on this type of stuff, and then once it's gone, they won't reproduce until they have a demand for it, and that could be 6 months, 2 years, 5 years down the track. So it would be in your own best interest, if you're considering getting something like this, if you see it on the shelf, make sure you grab it. So we know we can get aftermarket 3D printed parts to use in our model building, but we also have models where they're supplied with the kit. And what I've got here is a soon to be released Ukrainian version of the Bradley fighting vehicle. And what they've done here, and again this is a kit from the people at Magic Factory, is in the original version of this kit, which was an American Army version, the turret baskets were moulded in plastic and you had to build it. Well, what they've done here is they've done a 3D printed version, and we can see all the attachment points, etc. But this is just jaw-dropping. I mean, the thinness of the plastic is very, very reminiscent of something that you would have made out of photo-etch metal. It's just amazing. So I guess while we're talking about sort of aftermarket and items that can enhance your modelling build, let's just quickly have a look here at something photo-etch metal. Now, photo-etch metal has been around for quite a while, and like the ongoing evolution within the hobby, photo-etch is also undergoing some changes. But let's just have a quick squeeze here at some photo-etch. So I'll just quickly open this up, and this is from this Ukrainian Bradley. If you remember, and if you've worked with photo-etch, you'll know that the whole process involved, the best way to do it invariably was to heat the photo-etch with a cigarette lighter or a little butane torch or whatever, to then carefully remove it from the sprues, file it down to get the best possible finish, and then after because you'd heated it up or annealed the metal, you could then roll it, fold it, etc., etc. Made it a hell of a lot easier than just cutting it off here and trying to do the best that you could do. It invariably ended up with parts pinging off into the carpet all over the place, and a lot of frustration and probably a lot of swearing. Well, I know that was the case in my hobby area anyway, but what we see now is far more refined finishes to photo-etch metal. Firstly, there's a film on here, so you need to carefully remove that. Then you can take the part off, then holding it with a pair of tweezers or pliers, then anneal it and go from there. So what we see here is some even more advancements or refinements with photo-etch. Now, these are the attachment points for the side of the Bradley fighting vehicle, for all the tie-down points for the add-on armour. Now, we'll zoom in here and we'll have a look, but there's actually no attachment points to the main sheet. They've been able to remove those altogether. So all you need to do, this film covers both sides of the sheet, so carefully remove it from one side, and then you'll be able to, as you need, peel these off the second or the underside adhesive film, and then place them onto the model where you need it. So no cleanup, no mucking about, reducing the time spent in preparation, allowing you to spend more time working on your model and getting that finish that you really, really want. So yeah, so a lot of people say, look, maybe it's too much detail, maybe it's taking away from what modelling is all about, and that is, getting in there and building it yourself. I think it gives you options. I think that it makes sense that the aftermarket add-ons are going the way they are, 3D printing, more refined, easier to use, etc., etc., because that's what we're striving for. We want detail, we scream for detail, we scream for value for money. We just need to be prepared to invest the time and build the model itself. So until next time we get a chance to catch up, and hopefully then we're going to be looking at some Andy's Hobby Headquarter models and also some kits from Tacom. I'm Andrew from Hobbies Australia. Stay safe, take care, And as we always say, build more kits, but if you use photo etch or 3D printed parts, that's entirely up to you. Take care, bye for now.